Welcome back to Become a Calm Mama. I'm your host. I'm Darlene Childress. And today on the podcast, I'm going to share with you a text that my son sent to me, a big question that he asked me about how to live an intentional life. And I'm going to share with you his question and then my response to that question. And I think you will really enjoy it because really as moms, we are trying to figure out how to make the most of this experience and balancing all of the different stressors and demands and, how to raise a good kid while also enjoying the process. So this is an episode for you to help you kind of learn how to embrace this stage of your life with intentionality. It's fun to be back to share my own thoughts. The last several episodes have been interviews, which I've loved having so many experts and interesting conversations to share with you. And now I'm going to share a couple of episodes that are just my thoughts with you, like we typically do on the podcast. So let's get into it. Okay, so I woke up. By the way, this was sent to me at 2:11 a.m., this message, and it says, "Hey, this is a pretty random text, but I've been really wondering, how do you live every day to its fullest without wishing you had done something? In life, we only get to live every day once, and I can't seem to grasp how to make each day the best it could be, because regardless what I do, there's always some alternative thing I could think of what I should have done." And he goes on to say, "I really just want to make the most of my college years because they're flying by. Before I know it, I'm going to be 21. He says to me, "As someone who's lived through college and has a pretty fulfilling life, it seems to me, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this." And he says, "It's also just seems so hard to stay rooted living in the present and feeling gratitude for what you have." So he sends me this, and I had a chance to really think about his question. And I've actually had a few moms talk to me about this, especially after a conversation I had with Kelsey Cook about chasing fun or like being more present in our lives as moms and how challenging that can be because there's so much to do all the time. There's so many things that we feel like we should do, but yet we might be missing out on the richness of the moment and the living life to the fullest. So I kind of wanted to just tell you what I shared with my son and relate it to mothering and motherhood and see where we go from this conversation. So I started my answer to my son. I said, "My answer to your question, which quote, how to make each day the best it could be, is two parts." So this is how I think about it. I think that when we want to live as the best we can, we need these two ingredients. One is living intentionally, and two is dealing with regret respectfully. So living intentionally, to me, means having really specific goals. So when I have a goal, it gives me clarity about what I'm supposed to be doing each day. If I don't know what I'm working on in my life or working towards, then I kind of end up spending time like in this restless, no man's, no woman's land, and this mindless haze of nothingness. I've noticed this about myself. So I like to kind of have clarity. I talk about it in my parenting manifesto or just sort of the type of mom I want to be. I like to be intentional with my life. I like to think about what I am chasing and how I want to feel while I'm chasing those things. I like to know what I want and where I'm going. And when that's clear to me, I can make the most of my time. Some of my goals have been to be a really present and loving mother. I've also wanted to have a good marriage. I've wanted to have a strong body. I've wanted to have a beautiful home. I've wanted to create a meaningful career. I've wanted to make money. I've wanted to travel. I've wanted to have good friends. I wanted to be honest with myself and others, to be helpful to others, to grow as a person, especially in feeling less secure, and to have fun. So when I think about my intentions in my life, they might not seem all that insane. They're not like super ambitious. I don't think of myself as an incredibly ambitious person, but I do think of myself as someone who's very intentional. So when I have a goal in mind, even if it's not like a specific make this amount of money. I just want to have a career. I want to be a present and loving mother. And then I look at how I can make that happen. What are the steps that it takes to make that happen? What do I need to be learning? What do I need to be doing in order to become the person I want? If there's a problem in my marriage, I deep dive into marriage. I learn about it. I ask myself really hard questions. If I want to travel and I don't have money, I figure that out. Like right now I'm doing the points thing with credit cards, right? Trying to earn points and miles and things like that because I want to travel and I don't necessarily have, a lot of extra money for that. And so I'm kind of trying to figure that out. So I like to have a goal and I like to have meaning and purpose. And then that helps me structure my days. So when I was talking to my son, when I shared this letter with him, I also will share the letter. If you get the newsletter, we'll include a PDF of it so you can read it. But when I share it with him, I was really wanting him to understand that if you want to graduate from college, right, or you want to make a certain amount of money, or you want to have a certain physique, if you have that goal in mind, then you know how you should be structuring your time. So in addition to my goals, I'm also really intentional about how I want to feel in my life. I've talked about this on the podcast in a couple of different episodes, like summer mindset. I've talked about it in winter break mindset. I usually talk about it in terms of transitions or experiences. If I'm going on a vacation or I'm going to have a weekend with my girlfriends or I'm working out at a gym or I'm, working on growing the podcast or something, whatever it is, I have the goal, but I also am chasing the feeling. The most common feelings that I want to chase are joy, pretty much fun. I really love laughter. I love lightness. I love also seriousness too. So it's kind of complex. But I, for a very, very long time, was chasing calm. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of insecurity, a lot of overwhelm, especially with parenting. And that's why this has become a Calm Mama. A lot of my work is around teaching us how to be calm. And from that calm place, I want to feel joy. I want to feel proud of myself and my work. I want to feel grateful. So I work on my mindset a lot, practicing thoughts that make me feel calm, practicing thoughts that make me feel joy. It's a very simple way to understand mindset is intentionally thinking thoughts in order to create intentional feelings. That's what really mindset's all about. How it works for me is I have my goals and I have the feelings I'm chasing. And then when I'm off track, if I'm not doing the work that is taking me towards my goal, like I'm not doing the actions or I'm not feeling the way that I want to feel, then I catch myself and I stop and I reflect and I ask myself, why am I sabotaging my own goals? In the hierarchy of healing, I talk about radical self-love and radical honesty and radical listening. Because this process, if I am not reaching my goals or I'm not showing up as the mom I want to be, as the wife I want to be, as the coach I want to be, then I'm not meeting goals with my physical goals or my financial goals or any of those things. If I look at myself and I judge myself and I beat myself up and I beat myself with a whip, and I talk about how bad I am and how lazy I am and how selfish I am. If I use negative whipping tools, like mindset tools, I'm not going to actually make progress towards my goals. I need to be loving and gentle and curious with myself. So sometimes when I have looked at what's going on, darling? I literally talk to myself. I'm like, what's going on? You said you wanted to show up this way in life. You wanted to be a calm mama. And yet you yelled at your kids 3 times today. You said you wanted to grow the podcast, but yet you didn't do any cold pitches. What's going on? Or you say you want to be more honest with your husband and be more present in your marriage, and yet you are not talking about something that's hard and ignoring a big problem in your marriage. So I look at my actions and I look at my results and I gently ask myself, what's going on? Sometimes the reason why I'm not doing what I said I'm going to do is because I'm bored. For me, I don't know if this is true for a lot of people, but sometimes the answer to my why is that I'm bored. I'm bored with my life. That means I need to make some fun up and create something fun that aligns with my goals. So if I'm like not showing up as the wife I want to be and I keep being grumpy and I keep kind of like avoiding my husband, then I'm probably going to plan either like a fun night at home or bring a little project for us to do together or talk to him about, hey, let's do this or that. It doesn't have to be extravagant. Sometimes the answer to why I'm not achieving my goals is that I'm insecure. I can work through my self-esteem, through mindset, which is like finding positive things about me or my life that are true instead of focusing on negative things. If I don't have belief that I'm capable of reaching my goals, then I'm not going to reach them. So I have to work on my mindset so that insecurity isn't like I'm physically insecure or something like that. It's more like I don't have enough self-trust and self-love to get me to take risks or move forward towards my goals. I just don't believe in myself. And then I need to really work on pumping myself up a bit. Sometimes I don't work on my goals because I'm jealous and I just feel like defeated. And I look and I'm like, well, everyone else has what I want and I can't get it. So I love to look at my jealousy as a cue or a clue that there's something I want that I am not thinking I can have. And if I decide I get to have that too, then that means that I can create that. The first time this ever happened to me, ironically, is right in the beginning of like my healing journey. When I decided to leave college, I was doing too many drugs and alcohol, and I came home and I was in a really bad headspace. I was like 19. And I did talk about this in the confessions episode about getting sober. But the specific example is I called my college roommate who lived in Northern California and I lived in Southern California. And I called and I wanted to talk to her. And her mom answered the phone because we didn't have cell phones back then. And her mom said, oh no, she's on a camping trip in Yosemite. And I thought, oh, she has all the good things in life. Like I want to go to Yosemite, but I don't get to go to Yosemite and she gets to go to Yosemite. And I was very jealous of it. Then a couple weeks later, I was at something and there was a group of people going to Yosemite on a trip to hike Half Dome. It cost $99. I didn't have $99. And I decided I also get to have what I want. And I went and I asked if anybody would help me pay for it. And I hiked Half Dome. I got to go to Yosemite. So what I've learned about myself is that if someone has something I want, I get to create that for myself. This happened to me years later when I went paddleboarding and I said to Tiffany, I went stand-up paddleboarding on the ocean. And I said, I kind of want to be one of those people who stand up paddleboards and does yoga and just like spends time hiking. And she was like, why don't you be that person? Aren't you already that person? And I was like, wait, what? Like I was like jealous of something that I didn't realize I could create for myself. So anyway, use jealousy as a cue or a clue. Sometimes I'm resentful or I'm angry and I sabotage my goals because of my own anger. And I have learned that when I am angry or I'm resentful towards somebody or something, that is a clue that I have not set a good boundary or that I have not set a good limit. That I have not figured out what I want from a relationship or from a situation and then done what is, necessary for me. I have learned that my anger is an invitation to me to figure out what I want and maybe where I'm people pleasing or going outside my boundary, pausing and going and fixing the situation, talking to someone, getting clear about my boundaries and putting them in place. So I shared all this with my son in this letter. I just said to him that I have my intention, right? I know my goals. I have the feelings I'm chasing. And then when I'm off track, I get curious very gently and I find out what is the feeling I'm having instead. Am I bored? Am I insecure? Am I jealous? Am I angry? And then I look at that and I say, okay, that's because I have some negative self-belief or limiting belief. And I can overcome that through my thinking. For me, fun is a big, big thing. Like I'm constantly chasing fun in my life. Like I said, I love laughing. I love feeling light. I love smiling. So I'm always figuring out what is fun to me. And when I find that fun thing, I try to do more of it. And the more fun I create in my life, the more joy I have and the more peace I have, the more calm I am. And the better I show up as a parent and as a person and as a wife and a daughter and a coach and a friend and a business owner and a homeowner and all of these things. When we find that feeling that we love the most, maybe for you it's peace. Maybe for you it's purpose. Maybe for you it's achievement. Maybe for you it's quiet. Maybe for you it's power. Maybe it's knowledge. It can be whatever it is. Find out what it is that you chase and make it happen for yourself. And when I wrote to my son, I asked him to ask himself what he wants out of his college experience. But for you, I'd love to invite you to think about, what do you want out of this motherhood experience? What do you want about this season of your life? If you have young kids at home and you're in that very physical stage of parenting where they're on you and they're very demanding and you're tired physically, how can you bottle this up a little bit? Maybe you need more space from your children. That's okay. But maybe you want to look at this period of time and say, you know what? This is the time that I'm going to get cuddles. This is the time that I'm going to get late bedtimes where I'm laying in bed with my kids. I'm going to try to savor this period of physical connection with my children. I'm going to embrace it and enjoy it. Now, if you decide that and you find yourself angry or resentful, then maybe you have to set some boundaries. Maybe you don't lay down for the whole hour or whatever, and you do start to teach your kids to fall asleep on their own. You can set boundaries, but noticing when you want something and then you find yourself angry or bored or insecure or jealous or whatever, get curious and then set some boundaries about that or make some changes. So thinking for yourself, what do you want from this season of life? In my family, for me, what I wanted was I wanted stable joy. It's the best way I could explain how I felt about parenting. With my family, the way I grew up, it was very unpredictable. It was very insecure. The security wasn't there. It was scary a lot. I didn't know when we would eat or who would pick me up or whether I would be safe. There wasn't a lot of predictability in our lives. My mom, she was never like an angry person, but she was depressed. And so sometimes she would be fun and have energy and we would do fun things. And then other times it would be chaotic and messy and she would be tired and we would be fending for ourselves. There were unpredictable men in her life and that made my life unsafe. So there were a lot of moments in my childhood where I did not feel stable. And I wanted to create that predictability for my kids. I wanted to create what I'm thinking of as roots and routines. I wanted them to have anchor points in their life, tethers, where they knew that they could root back into. So like an evening routine or some predictability around how people's moods were or how patterns in terms of cleaning up or chores. Like I wanted to have predictability and stability and safety, but I also really wanted it to be joyful. As you can tell, I really like fun. And so I wanted there to be silliness and fun times and lighthearted moments. And how I thought about it was like a beat, like a metronome beat in our family that was just kind of boom, 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 like a bass note that was kind of always there. And then there was all the harmony, and I don't know anything about music, but like all of the delightful, like something going on where there was some lightness. And I always thought about it as like giggly and laughter and clapping and things like that. While there was still, I didn't want chaos, but I didn't want just a metronome. Sorry to go off on this, but I've never really talked about it on the podcast because it was really, really important to me. And I was very intentional about it. I wanted there to be that roots and routines, and then also those high notes of life, lighthearted and silly and not so serious. So thinking for yourself about what it is that you want for your family, short term in this season, and then longer term kind of the rhythm or routines or like tone of your life as a family. Okay, I'm saying all this and I'm also realizing you don't have to do this, okay? You don't have to make parenting so complicated and motherhood so meaningful. It's just an invitation if you're feeling frustrated or like things aren't really feeling great for you, you're unhappy in motherhood, or you're kind of feeling grumpy a lot, chase a feeling. Look at some goals. Who did you decide you wanted to be when you became a parent? What was it that was driving you? How do you want the home that you're creating to be different from your childhood? Or what is it that you want to take in from your childhood home and bring it into your child rearing years? So you can just kind of think about a little bit of intentionality will help you. Now, another thing about being intentional is training your brain to look for the good. The brain likes to look for problems. It's a survival organ. It wants to protect you. It's always scanning for hazards so it can keep you safe. That's its natural default perspective, is negative bias, scanning for hazards. But that negative bias can keep us feeling scared and stuck. That's why having an intentional feeling is good, because then you can find thoughts that make you feel that way, that help you get into that mindset. And it overcomes that negative bias. Another great hack that I find is helpful to get out of negative bias and shift towards positive is gratitude. So looking at what's going great in your life. The more you focus on what you already have, the more that good grows. The more joy I have, and when I look for ways that my life is working, then I'm able to actually look and go, ooh, I want to create more of that. I loved that. I want more of that. In general, we want to focus on what we have and create more of that. And then also, if something's not working, figure out what it is that you love about your life and create more of that. What's going well? Let's add more. If things aren't going well, okay, let's get curious about what parts of the day are hard. How can we make them better? What do we already know is true about you, or already true about something that you like? Can you add more? Example, easy example, music. So maybe every time that post dinner or while you're prepping for dinner, it's always a real shit show in your house, but you know you love music or you love these certain songs. You can just turn that on for yourself. Turn on some music. If you know that getting in your pajamas makes a way better night, or having your face washed and your teeth brushed before you start bedtime, just in case you fall asleep, just do that then, right? If it's working, if you notice things are working, add more of it. And then looking at that positive focus, like, where do I want to focus my energy? Do I want to focus it on things that aren't working or things that are working? Do I want to focus on where things are bad, or do I want to focus on where things are good? So Tony Robbins says, where your focus goes, energy flows. So whatever you are focusing on, that's what your energy goes towards, and that's what grows. So you want to try to focus on areas of your life that are going great. So my son had also asked me about the balance between being carefree and also taking life seriously. And I think of this as the art of living. So my best advice is to figure out what you want, how you want to feel along the way, the steps to get there, and then relax and trust the process. It's like, if you have this belief, like, I am becoming a calm mama, I understand what needs to happen. I need to be pausing if I get overwhelmed. I need to take excellent care of myself. I need to be curious about how I'm thinking and feeling, curious about how my kids are thinking and feeling, setting boundaries, right? The calm mama process: calm, connect, limit set, correct. Those are the basics. Just keep doing those. You're going to get calm. If you can trust that you're making progress every day and that you're moving forward, then you can relax a little bit. You don't have to be so hard on yourself or so hard on your kids. Trusting the process, literally the Calm Mama process, is effective and works. So trust the process that you're learning, but also just trusting yourself, trusting that you're going to get where you want to go. Will you sometimes slip and become too carefree or go off your track a little bit? Yes, no problem. Reset your goals, get back on the path. Sometimes you're going to slip and be too serious. No problem. Chase the feelings of fun and peace, and you'll get back on the path. So I'm not going to get into regret on this episode because it's going to get too long, but I did want to spend time with you today to talk about just like this intentional living, this art of living, and how to make the most of each day, And this is my best attempt to do that. It's being intentional, chasing goals, chasing feelings, being gentle with yourself when you get off track, and keep going. Trust. You're going to get to the goals that you have. When I look back at the things that I've wanted in the past, I have them. I wanted to be a present and loving mother, and I did. I am, and I was. Was I always present? Was I always loving? No, of course not. We make mistakes. But in general, I have that. I have been that. I want to have a good marriage. I've worked on it. I've worked with Kevin. We've had to have very hard conversations. It has not always been good, but it is good now, and I'm grateful. I do have a strong body. I do have a beautiful home. I do have a great career. And listen, I'm not bragging here. I'm proud of myself, and I'm also offering to you that you have it too. Now, of course, maybe your marriage isn't working out or you're not married at all. That's fine. That might not be possible for you. Maybe your next relationship, or maybe you want to have a better marriage with yourself. Maybe that's your goal, is to fall deeper and deeper in love with you. Maybe it's to fall deeper in love with a kid that you have that's challenging to you. Maybe motherhood isn't your favorite, and you want to find a bigger balance between your career or your interests and your self-development and your growth and your children. I love that. It doesn't have to be my version. You get to design the life that you want that would make you feel joyful and happy. The way that we begin that is getting very curious. If you're jealous of something or somebody, what do they have that you want? That's such a beautiful cue to you. Are you angry or resentful about something? That's such a good cue to you that maybe you need to have better boundaries or make changes in your life. Resentment, anger, jealousy, boredom, insecurity. These are all clues that maybe you want to shift some things around. Instead of judging yourself for feeling those ways, get curious. What am I so annoyed about? And then believing that you have the power to change that. You get to make whatever life that you want. You get to make it. Within, of course, the boundaries of time and money and space and children and the demands on life. But in general, we all have access to our own brain. We get to think how we want. We get to change how we think. And when we do that, it changes how we feel. And when we change how we feel, we change how we act. So there's a lot of power and agency in your life, even within your difficult circumstances. Okay, mamas, I love you to pieces, and it's so nice to be back chatting with you. And I will talk to you next week. Have a great week. Hey mama, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, I want to encourage you to do two things. The first is go to my website, calmmamacoaching.com, and get a copy of the Stop Yelling cheat sheet. You'll get a step-by-step breakdown of the most important tool I teach, which is the pause break. And you'll also get 40 ideas to reset your body and balance your nervous system so you don't have to yell at your kids. You can get a copy of that, again, at my website, calmmamacoaching.com/stop yelling. The other thing I'd love for you to do is go to Apple Podcasts and rate and review this podcast so that other moms can discover empowering and helpful, practical parenting strategies, just like you did today. Thanks so much for listening to the podcast. It means a lot to be in your ear every week and to support you on your parenting journey.